Hello and welcome back to the channel. Very happy new year to everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year, and we hope you had a good Christmas as well.
So we're coming into the start of the new season in 2024 and it suddenly dawned on us that possibly people will be looking to buy a camper van for the new season. Maybe you've never had one before, or maybe you've been tenting and you want to upgrade to a camper van. And we thought it might be interesting to do a video about the practicalities of using a camper van of our size on a daily, which is what you do, don't you?
Yeah. So I use it as a daily driver. And I know that's a question that a lot of people have when they're thinking of getting one. Could you get rid of one car or get rid of the only car you've got and change it for a camper van and use it on the daily?
Now, you don't drive very far to work each day, don't you? You probably work, what, 3 miles away maybe?
Yeah, that's the reason I do use it for that.
Yeah, now I'm not saying that you would maybe necessarily want to use it if you were going a long way to work each day, just sheerly for putting the miles on the van. But I'm sure lots of people do. But let's get into the various pluses and minuses of using a camper van as an everyday driver. And just to premise this video, just bear in mind that we are going to be talking specifically about our camper van, which is a short wheelbase VW Transporter T6.1. Obviously that is a similar size to, say, a short wheelbase Transit, and obviously ours has been lowered, so that makes the top of ours a little bit lower than a standard non-lowered version. So the first thing we're going to talk about is size of the vehicle. Now I think even before we bought this van, we were wondering about whether it would be practical as a daily driver because of the size of it. But actually, if you look at the size of the short wheelbase Transporter and you compare it to, say, a large family estate car, actually in terms of the overall footprint of the vehicle, they're very similar. And if you compare here on screen to what I would say is a fairly standard family estate car, the sizes are very similar. Obviously it's significantly taller, something in the region of maybe twice as tall maybe. But obviously in terms of its footprint, so left to right, front to back, it's very similar. And that's borne out in driving it day to day, isn't it?
Yeah, when you think about it, it's not much different to driving, like you say, an estate car. So you don't feel so bad parking it and things like that. It's no problem really, is it?
Yeah, and on that, we've recently been to the supermarket in this to do some shopping, and we went to Morrison's, and it fit fine in a car park space, as you'll see on screen now.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
And obviously, because it's basically in essence a van, you've got lots of space inside to put your shopping in or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about boot space or anything, do you? And
that brings us on nicely to the next bit, space. So inside of the van, obviously, it is in essence a van with a seat, some extra seats and some cabinetry in it. So as a van for moving stuff around or doing your shopping, dogs,
tip runs,
children. Yeah, I mean, we actually went to the tip recently in the car, and we asked at the tip whether we were okay to come in the camper van, because the beauty about our van is we can put the seat all the way forwards, and likewise all the way back. But if we put it all the way forwards, we've got a massive load space that you could load with whatever you need to take to the tip. And we actually asked at the tip, and they said it was absolutely fine to come with a camper van without having to get permits or anything. So that's a real positive of using it as a daily driver and having it as an available vehicle as a daily driver, rather than having it stored off site or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what about driving it on a daily? I mean, you literally drive this every day, don't you?
Yeah, I love driving it. I'd only ever had 2 relatively small cars. I mean, Ford Fiestas basically before. So I was a little bit worried about the extra length of it compared to a Fiesta, and just it being a little bit bigger. But actually, when you're driving it, you just don't notice it. You don't notice that it's any bigger. It drives pretty much like a car. So yeah, I love driving it. I don't know why I was even worried about it, to be honest.
Yeah, and you are a little bit of a nervous driver, I would say, aren't you?
I don't really like driving, I'll be honest.
You were massively apprehensive about moving to this big vehicle and how you were going to get on with that, but actually you've coped with it fine. I mean, that's the beauty about modern vans. They don't feel much different to driving a car.
No, and do you know what else I really love about it? The higher seating position. I just feel like you get a really good view of the road and everything while you're driving. Absolutely, and it actually gives you a really good overview of everything that's going on around you, which is really I love that. I love that about it.
And obviously in our van, we've got windows all round, so you get a really good view of
good visibility for parking and stuff, reversing. Yeah, really good.
One of the other things about our van specifically, bearing in mind it has been lowered, is if we want to go somewhere and there is a height barrier, one of the most common sizes of height barrier in the UK is 2.1 metres. Our van comfortably gets up under a 2.1 metre height barrier. I think if our van measures from the awning, which is the tallest part of our van, just under 2 metres. I wouldn't risk going under a 2 metre height barrier. I think that would be way too twitchy bummed. But a 2.1 metre height barrier is absolutely fine.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning while we're on this point that what height barrier you can get under probably depends on what sort of pop top you've got as well, because ours is a fairly slimline pop top, so that I think gives us a little bit more leeway when it comes to like height barriers and stuff. Some pop tops are a lot chunkier, I think.
Yeah, so there's two things on our van. As I've just mentioned, the highest point is the awning rail, or the awning that's on the side. Now, if we got a thicker roof, which I think the roofs, as is a slimline, I think the normal size one is about twice as thick as ours. But I think that would probably bring it to the similar height as our awning. But obviously, if you didn't have an awning rail and you had a slimline roof like we've got, then actually the van would be even smaller.
Yeah.
So you probably could get under a 2 metre height barrier. And again, just to say, our van is lowered, so just bear that in mind.
Yeah.
You know, that's not necessarily a standard thing, like if you had a California, for instance. I would say that I believe the Transit is slightly smaller. I think that can get under a height barrier, just a 2.1 metre height barrier just off the bat. But yeah, so that's another thing that makes it really practical on the daily. So then one of the things that obviously will it be good as an everyday vehicle is its economy. Now obviously this is a 2 litre diesel, it's 150 brake horsepower, and when we're away and we're going on longer journeys, we tend to average between 35 and 40 miles per gallon, roughly. Now obviously Lou is doing very short journeys to work, aren't you? Where it's not really, and it's stop starting, you know, you go down a lane for a half a mile and then you turn in. Not particularly economical on those journeys, really, no. You know, it's probably only averaging maybe 28 on that sort of journey. So it's not the most economical on very short journeys. Like if you were going into the centre of a town, for instance, and you were starting at traffic lights, I wouldn't necessarily say this would be a great vehicle for that in terms of its economy. But in terms of the way it drives absolutely fine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it handles that fine. It's just not greatly economical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we mentioned earlier about the fact that in our van the seat moves all the way forward and all the way backwards, which can either give you a very big boot space, or you know, if you're using it as we do as a camper van, a very big like lounge space. Yeah. But also actually if you've got a family, say, that creates a real nice area, so you could pull the seat all the way forward. So if you've got your children there and you need to, you know, tend to them, help them, sort them out or whatever, you can just very easily turn around and get to them. But equally, you know, if you've got it all the way forward, you've got a big boot space that you can put all the paraphernalia, bikes, trikes, prams,
all the stuff that kids need, basically.
Exactly.
It's a good family vehicle.
Absolutely, definitely. So yeah, I think that's another reason why it's actually a really good daily driver. And for that matter, it's obviously it's a camper van, but it makes a really good day van. Yeah. You know, if you want to go somewhere, have a walk,
days
make
out,
a cup of tea, it's perfect. Make some lunch. It makes a really good vehicle as a day van, as well as being obviously a camper van. And equally on that point, it works just as well for dogs, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's loads of space for the dogs in here. We travel with them mainly in the main part of the vehicle now, but they've travelled in the boot. We've moved the seat forward and put them in the boot as well. And that it works either way, really, doesn't it? That does.
Yeah, the main reason for that switch from travelling with them in the boots compared to in the main area, obviously both times when they're in there, they're strapped in, is actually to do with the practicalities of dog hair, isn't it?
Yeah, because in here, because you've got the cabinets on this side, there is a little bit of carpet that side, but they don't tend to touch it. Whereas in the boot, the whole of the tailgate is covered in carpet inside, all the wheel arch is carpeted, and they just get hair all over that.
Yeah, and it's really tricky.
It seems to be hard to clean out of the tailgate, I think.
Like you can get all the dog hair off it, not a problem at all, but it's like an hour to get it all off. Whereas actually when they're in here, they don't really create much dog hair at all. Obviously we have the carpet in here, that we have the rug, but that, again, that's really easy to, because it's a washable rug, it's like a plasticky fibre, so it's very easy to hoover off. Yeah. So actually that's a practicality thing rather than a preference thing. It's much easier to keep the van clean and tidy if they're travelling in the main space rather than in the boot.
But you could do either, it's not...
I think it also depends what carpet you've got. there's different carpets I think you can get, and it depends what.
Some are probably worse than others, aren't they,
and
for
also
dog hair?
potentially not all vans are carpeted. Like the boot sort of fascia on the inside.
On the
I don't
inside
think
of the
that's
tailgate?
always carpeted. I
No,
think.
some might have like some kind of like panel,
Like
like
wood
wooden
panel.
panels
Yeah,
or something.
I'm sure I've seen, and obviously that would make a big change for us. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's one of the worst bits to get the dog hair off.
I don't know why it really sticks to that
Yeah,
for some
it's
reason.
weird,
It's
yeah.
just annoying.
So that's one of the things that we do in here. The other thing that's quite handy in our vehicle is we have an external shower point on the van. So if there's water in the tank and we get back to the van and the dogs are, say, really messy because of, maybe they've been in the water or they've been in a really muddy area, we can actually hose them down with
just
the
give
shower.
give them a wash off with a shower, dry them off, and
then we're
they're
good to go.
good as new.
Obviously that's not something you would necessarily have in a car, but obviously potentially you'd have that in a day van, but it's just another reason that makes a camper van just awesome as a daily driver.
Good, and good if you've got dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all that told, I think for us, and I think for a lot of people, a camper van as a daily driver will work really, really well. Drives lovely, it's easy to park, it's easy to manoeuvre. I don't think it's anywhere near the same as if you've got a motorhome, like a big, tall, wide motorhome.
Yeah.
I think we were worried about that before we got the van, that it would feel too big.
Too big.
But actually, since we've had it for a few years now, a couple of years now,
Yeah.
it actually works really well. There's little downsides to having it, apart from potentially on small trips. It's economical as a daily driver. It just works fantastic.
And there are some times when it won't go under a certain height barrier, but for the most part, like you say, 2.1 is the norm, really.
And I probably wouldn't take it in a multi-storey car park.
No.
Because they'll often...
They're tight sometimes for turning, aren't they?
Yeah,
I think. When you've got to go up to the next level, it's sometimes tight.
I think... I'm not sure who it was, but someone's told me a story before about they've gone into a multi-storey car park in a van and it went under the height barrier fine, and when they've gone to go up to the next level, because the angles
changed,
actually the top of the roof hit. So that one thing I would say is I wouldn't take this in a multi-storey car park.
take care in a multi-storey car park,
because I think there can be some, obviously, like I say, I'm sure in this instance they got through the height barrier fine, but inside there was areas where it was actually lower than that. So I wouldn't take this in a multi-storey car park. But apart from that, I think it makes a fantastic daily driver.
Yeah.
And it's something that we were worried about before we got it, and it was something actually that we didn't need to worry about because it works absolutely fine.
Yeah, and that's why we thought we'd make this video, because I know if we were thinking about it, I'm sure other people are if they're thinking of getting a van. So.
And actually, when we were getting our van, there wasn't lots of videos out there like explaining this kind of stuff, like how good is it as a daily driver. So I think putting a video out there that even if it helps 10 people, 2 people, then we could have shared our experience with them and helped some people. So
yeah, definitely.
But anyway, that'll be it for this video. We hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about our van and how we use it as a daily driver, get in the comments below and we'll endeavour to answer all of those. We hope you all have a fantastic 2024 and we'll see you soon for more van trips.
Yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.